Two men stand beside a steel-clad barn in Grand Forks, North Dakota. The taller of them, Bob, is a farmer with a slight stoop. The short, stocky one is a roving worker named Roger. It's a sparse early April in 2015. Several miles beyond, a factory belches out steam. Sugar beets from last year's harvest are piled up on the ground, preserved by the cold winter. Inside the factories, a Byzantine set of conveyor belts and furnaces refine beets into sugar. The refined powder is funneled into bags. The bags are boxed, palletized, and loaded onto railroad cars to be carted out across the continent. A generation ago, fewer than 10 trains came through Grand Forks each day. Now it's more than 40. Some trains carry oil or workers from the Bakken fields out west. The rest carry sugar. Like oil, sugar is a protected commodity and one of the best-funded lobbies in Washington, D.C. Bob's never been to Washington, but he's always liked history. Sugar and national security, he likes to say, are kissing cousins. Napoleon ordered hundreds of sugar factories built in France after a series of port blockages threatened supply. Controlling supply meant controlling a nation. Today, the U.S. government mandates that 80% of sugar be grown domestically and guarantees a price. Of that 80%, about half comes from beets grown in the Dakotan plains. The other half is from Florida and Louisiana-grown cane, its tall canopies flourishing in the thick southern heat. Frigid plains and humid swampland, two worlds apart. In the northeast corner of North Dakota, the Red River Valley stretches out like an ocean, languid white through the long winter, soft beige when the snow finally melts. Cultivated fields turn Kelly green at summer's peak. Roads bisect the plain like infinite crosshatch. A few red barns stand out against the skyline. Bob's family has been farming this land for 6 generations. His grandfather's tractor is parked in the old barn, and Bob can recount who sold what land to whom and when, like a baseball fan reciting his team's stats. He's lived through lean times, and he's learned to make do. But the future he imagines, from his tiny office overlooking the fields, unfurls with the same sweet cadence as the past. It feels impossible to imagine, on this crisp April morning, that over the next year Bob's way of life is due to change in big ways. Bob lumbers to the warehouse that shelters his farm equipment in winter. Later, we see his weathered face bowed in a stern Lutheran service, pulsing with recitations of sin and salvation. The story is well worn. 2 generations ago, half the congregation worked the land. Now he's the only farmer among the nearly full pews. One by one, the younger generation moved to Sioux City or Minneapolis or even farther. With the oil boom, boys went west for weeks at a time. The money there was good. Parents with no children to take over sold off their struggling farms. Maybe a son or daughter would move back eventually to raise a few hogs, plant a few rows, or work in an office in town. But their children certainly weren't going to stick around Grand Forks if they had the choice. Most of the heads in church, like Bob's, are crowned with white hair or none at all. Farming, of course, is more than an occupation. It's a connection to land, a thread across generations, a means of carrying on tradition. Bob is consumed with figuring out the succession plan for his operation. His face furrows when he reveals that none of his children farm. He later admits, quietly, that he had to cut back grand plans for his farm to take care of his family. The pastor asks the congregation to stand. In 2015, sugar beets are a lucrative and rooted industry, but it's an existence predicated on the strength of the D.C. lobby, on the strength of a few families to work the land. The second man by the barn, Roger, is a laid-back storyteller who hasn't stayed put in years. While others of his age are pinned to one place, for 10 years, Roger and his wife Charlotte have traveled the United States by RV in search of work. In North Dakota in the fall, they harvest beets for Bob. Sometimes they return in the spring to help process the remainder before planting starts. They've also worked as guards at a Texas oil well, as hay balers in Kansas, and on feedlots and ranches all over the West. As teenagers, they baled hay for 2 cents a bale. Roger describes the first time he met Charlotte. There was the prettiest girl I'd ever seen on her family's farmhouse steps. Behind her, I could see acres of corn and 3 oil wells pumping. So I thought, not only am I going to marry this girl, but I'm going to be rich. Boy, was I wrong about the second part. Turns out the farmland and oil rights weren't worth much.